When Beethoven's Ninth Symphony received its premiere performance 200 years ago on May the 7th, 1824, it ushered in a new era of music history. Beethoven was a composer who changed the form of just about everything he touched. He enriched it, he made it more expressive, more ambitious, and his vision paved the way for composers of the Romantic Age to further convey ever more complex and embracing messages. Without Beethoven's Ninth, we'd almost certainly not have many of the symphonies of Gustav Mahler, for example. His influence was transformative, and not just in his creation of large-scale forms, but he also gave permission for composers to use music to explore mankind's relationship to mankind. For many, the message as much as the medium was paramount. The Ninth Symphony has come to symbolize the triumph of the human spirit over adversity. Beethoven composed the symphony at a time when he was grappling with profound personal challenges, including deafness and declining health. Despite these obstacles, he created a work of unparalleled beauty and power, demonstrating the indomitable strength of the human creative spirit. Esteban Buch is the Director of Studies at the School for Advanced Studies in the Social Sciences in Paris and the author of a fascinating book, Beethoven's Ninth, A Political History. Esteban, you devoted many years of your career to focusing on this book on Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, A Political History. Can you remember what the impetus was for choosing that particular work?
Yes, I think that it was the fact that the Ninth Symphony is unique in music history. I was interested in music and politics as a kind of problematics, and the position of the Ninth, when you're interested in that, is absolutely unique indeed, because it has a political history, which I try to retrace in my book, and it's also a wonderful piece of music, which every time I listen to it produces kind of a new experience, or at least a new way of approaching it.
And do you think a performance of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is a political act, or can it be a political act?
Well, it definitely can. There are many important events. One of them, maybe the most famous today, is Leonard Bernstein's performance after the fall of the Berlin Wall, when he replaced the word Friday by Freiheit, liberty, instead of joy. And of course, there are those specifically political events, but also you can ask questions about whether the work itself is not already political in a way, which is my way of listening to it, because Beethoven not only put Schiller's text there, and of course it's a text which speaks about joy, but it also speaks about fraternity, about bringing people together. So you have this thematic side because of the text, but you have also musical ways of addressing political issues, and namely the Ode to Joy melody is itself a kind of anthem, a political anthem, and that's my claim at least, and that makes of every listening experience perhaps not a political event in the sense of a contemporary political life, but it's a kind of invitation to think about what it means to belong to a community. And in this sense, it is perhaps always political.
I mean, if we think ourselves back 200 years, to the premiere of the work, I mean, often when we talk about the Ninth Symphony, we focus on the finale. I mean, that's the one with the words, that's the one with the, the obvious message. But do you think the other movements would have shocked or surprised the listeners at the time?
I'm certainly sure that it was a shock. I mean, when you read the reviews, I mean, the review in the Allgemeine Musikalische Zeitung, which was the most important at that time, you see that, it was disconcerting, and even the reviewer says that maybe the work would be better if it was shorter at the end, and so on. And but definitely the whole narrative, the musical narrative, not only the Schiller text, but the musical narrative which unfolds from the beginning to the end, corresponds to a very powerful pattern for making people to feel the power of music, because it starts in a kind of nothingness, you could say that, and it goes up to an apotheosis, and so the whole emotional narrative is definitely so effective, and that's why 200 years after that we are still renewing that experience every day. Sometimes I feel like bewildered by the third movement, which is a device for waiting for something in a way. And there is this suspension of time, and you know, of course, because you know the work, that it will bring the fourth movement, the ode to joy narrative and everything, but there is this stasis in a way in the adagio, which I found particularly fascinating.
And you know, the opening of the night, and the opening of the finale, you know, where he takes little clips from the three movements and then presents them and sort of dismisses them. And then, I mean, that is still, you know, all these 200 years later, that is still such an incredible thing to do.
Yeah, it's a very powerful rhetorical device, because the idea is to show that we are looking forward to something new. That's the whole point about bringing back the early movements. And that's the basis of the political utopian side. You can say that the ninth is a musical utopia in a way, and the moment you mention is the demonstration of that programmatic intent in bringing utopia into the minds and the ears of the listeners.
And the ninth created or gave to Europe a sort of musical anthem. I mean, you talk about this in your book. I mean, tell us the story about how the European anthem emerged, as it were, from the Ninth Symphony.
That's an important part of the history of the reception of Beethoven's Ninth. The melody of the Ode to Joy, without the text, just the melody, and that's important, was declared to be the European anthem in 1970 by the Council of Europe first, and then in 1985 by the European Communion, the community, the European Union today. And that was a tricky thing in a way, because you know, it corresponds to honoring Beethoven as a founder, in a way, a symbolic founder of Europe. On the other hand, there was a controversial situation because the official version for that was the work of Herbert von Karajan, who performed the first performance of the Ode to Joy as European anthem. And as the audience must be aware, Karajan was a member of the Nazi Party, and so I personally think that it's a weird situation to have the anthem of the European Union eventually performed in the past, but today still being actualized because of Karajan's signature on the official version of Beethoven's music.